So today we're going to hope to learn and share ways of accomplishing our goals around becoming FireWise recognized. And I want to clarify now that this is not like a defensible space concepts class, but instead we're going to be discussing the process of becoming FireWise recognized. Encourage folks, and then we don't want to get bogged down kind of in that. We're definitely focused more on the process of it. So the format today, the first part of this, we're going to kind of preview the process, talk about tips to becoming FireWise recognized, and we're going to look at it from the national level down to local level. We'll talk some about assessments and action plans, and then I think the big meat of where we're going to be really getting into the nitty-gritty will be our breakout rooms as we go into small group discussions. And when we do go into those small breakout discussions, I'm going to encourage everybody to come off mute, use your video if you're able to with your internet, or you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine, right? But come off, and then we'll be able to kind of get more involved and be able to meet one another, talk a little bit more in depth. And then at the end, we'll wrap everything back up. We'll come out of our breakout sessions. We'll discuss everything that we discussed in those breakout sessions, and then wrap all that back up. Talk about some of the things that we have as resources out there. And then with that, I just want to also remind everybody that this is a pretty tight timeline that we have. So as we wrap up, we're going to be shooting for that 12 o'clock hour, and we'll answer questions as we go through everything today. But if there's questions that don't get answered, talking with the other people facilitating with all of us here, we all agreed that we would be able to stay on the line for a little while, answer and address some of those questions. And if you had questions that didn't get addressed, you'd have that opportunity as well. By all means, at 12 o'clock when we hit the hour, you're more than welcome to jump off and log off of the call, but you're also welcome to stay on with us for a few minutes longer. So with that, I'm going to jump right into, actually I got to do introductions. Sorry. So today for our talk, we have myself, Fire Adaptive Communities Coordinator for Deschutes County. Jenna Trinidou, I saw that she'd introduced herself as well, National Fire Plan Coordinator for Oregon Department of Forestry. She works out of the Salem office. Chase Duncan, our Stewardship Forester for Oregon Department of Forestry. He works out of the Prineville office, but covers he covers quite a bit of our area, including all the way over into Sisters area down to Lapine. Ed Keith, our County Forester, who I work directly with. And then Doug Green, I didn't see his name on the list yet, but I spoke to him briefly. He said he'd be here today. But he's fire marshal for Sisters Camp Sherman and the fire department here in Bend. Great resource, but great help to kind of facilitate this. Okay. And I'll let everybody introduce themselves more if they need to as we go. So just kind of framing up where we're going. Most everybody is already familiar with most of these steps for becoming FireWise. And that's either you've seen the handout that we have and it's come to you through email, or you've just word of mouth, we've talked about it on the phone or in person, or possibly through one of the websites out there. But if you've decided to become FireWise, one of the first steps that you need to do is reach out to one of us and begin to plan that risk assessment where we come out, and that's usually done by the state agency or local fire department in cooperation with people like myself. Form a board, a committee that will dedicate time to FireWise, create an action plan based on that assessment, plan and conduct a FireWise Day event in your community, and then invest your $25 per dwelling into your FireWise activities. So once you've done all of those things, you've kind of put them together. And I realize I got to back up one step. I realize I'm going through these pretty quick, but I also am just kind of framing up where we're at. And I think most people are familiar with it. But once we've put all that stuff together, that's where we turn to the FireWise portal and begin to upload all of our information. And that's where it goes through the actual review session. And that's where Jenna Trinidou comes in. So once you're to the ready point of submitting through the portal for tips on being successful and how that rolls up in the statewide level, Jenna trying to do, we'll be able to cover that a little bit more in depth. And then if you're ready, Jenna, I'm going to transition over to you already.
Okay, sounds good. I think you got to kick yourself out. Give me a second. I'll get us sharing. Okay, hopefully you guys can see where I'm at here. Let's get this going. Okay, hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Jenna Trinidou. I'm the National Fire Plan Coordinator for the Oregon Department of Forestry, but I am also the state liaison for the FireWise program. And I'll talk a little bit about what my role is at the state compared to kind of what you guys do. We'll just roll right into it. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview of kind of how this works. And thank you, Boone, for running through all kind of the basics. I'm going to kind of expand beyond that and not really touch too much on that today. So who runs the FireWise USA program? I know a lot of the communities get a little bit confused as to, who's really in charge of this. Is it NFPA? Is it ODF? Is it the fire department? It gets a little bit convoluted because there's a lot of partners in there. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick rundown, and this will hopefully clarify some of those questions you guys have. So NFPA is the National Fire Protective Association. They are the ones who actually house this program. They started it. They're a global self-funded nonprofit organization. They're not government run. That's a question I've gotten before. And so they're kind of their own entity. And they're devoted to eliminating death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire, electrical, and related hazards. That's kind of their mission. But they are the FireWise USA program at the national level. They're the ones who get the final say as to whether or not you become a FireWise community. And they're also the resource for a lot of the information that we use on the ground. So below them is me. I'm the state liaison for these programs. So every time that you guys turn in an application, those come to me and I have to take a look at them and either approve or reject them or give you a call and kind of see how we can fix them or kind of get them up to what we need to do for the level of what the NFPA will accept or not accept. So I'm kind of the ones you guys send it into, and then I send it to NFPA once I take a look at it and they give us the final go. So the rest of you guys, that's the local level. That's the ODF district offices where that's Chase and Boone. Boone's, of course, the Project Wildfire side. Fire departments, associations, those are all kind of our boots on the ground people. They're the ones who you come to for your technical expertise, your community assessments, your action plans. They're really the ones who do a lot of the work with the communities. And then the community members, of course, are actually probably the most important part of this entire program. They're the ones who really make this work because it's really about your community and what you want to do with your community become more fire safe. And we're just there to guide you and help you. When it comes to me, I'm just there to kind of get you certified as a community, but you guys are the ones out there doing all the work, and including all the district offices and fire departments and everything. You guys do a ton of it. So I'm just going to run through a few tips here. I'm going to try and kind of make this quick because I know we're on a time crunch. But just some things that maybe some of you guys have come across and gotten stuck on. I just want to get some clarity. These are some questions that I get pretty often. So dwelling units, people ask me a lot, okay, do all of the people involved in becoming a FireWise community, do they have to be adjacent to each other? How close do they need to be? All that kind of stuff. So just to clarify, you want to just draw your boundary around the dwelling units that are participating in the program. You don't have to draw it around the entire community. And then if there's other houses in between the people who are participating, that's fine, but you don't need to necessarily count them as your amount of dwelling units. Please only count the amount of dwelling units that are actually participating in the program. So when you're going into your portal and you're putting that information in, it doesn't have to be all the units in the neighborhood, just a minimum of 8 dwelling units need to be participating and in relatively close proximity. We don't want to have homes that are like super far apart because then you're kind of taking away that sense of community. So another question I get is about insurance. USAA is the only insurance company right now at this time giving discounts for the FireWise program. NFPA is working with other insurance companies to try and mitigate some additional discounts or incentives with other insurance programs, but those have not come to fruition yet. So we're hoping maybe in the next couple of years something comes out of that, but as of now, USAA is the only company who is actually giving discounts at this time. Though it's always good to check with your insurance company and just see, they might be aware of the program or they might offer something for you doing the work out there. Residential leader, regional coordinator changes. This is just kind of a heads up that keep in mind if you are the regional coordinator or the residential leader of your community that is established FireWise, if you leave the community or if you leave your job, then you do need to make sure that you go in and change your name out of the portal into whoever's going to take over for you, because nobody can access it if you don't switch it out. So that's kind of a step that you just need to make sure that you're taking if you end up leaving that position or you're not going to be a residential leader anymore. So renewals can be done by the community leader or the regional leader, either way. So you guys should both have access to the portal. And I know that there's been some confusion on how to do that. There's a really easy 3-minute step-by-step video found on the NFPA website, and I included the link here. I'm not going to go through it. We don't really have time, but just to let you know that there is that resource there that just kind of gives you a quick step-by-step on how to do renewals. Those can get kind of confusing, so I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. And then make sure to check and make sure you have the most up-to-date version of your community assessment and the correct volunteer hours. I know Chase is going to talk after me, and he'll kind of go over community assessments and action plans and things like that. So just a few more tips here. Don't hit the submit button until you're ready. Once you hit submit, you can't make changes anymore, and it comes to me in my email box so that I can go in and do stuff with it. I cannot edit your document. Once you've submitted it, unfortunately, the only way for it to make changes, like you submit it and you're like, oh no, I forgot my pictures and to add this information in. I encourage you to shoot me an email and I'll make sure to send it back to you. Unfortunately, I do have to hit deny to send it back so you guys can make changes, but I literally cannot edit your document. It won't let me. I can only hit yes or no, this is good to go. So keep that in mind. Make sure you use the drop-down menu in the renewal application to navigate to the section you want. People seem to not recognize that there's like this, there's a little bar at the top and it's like your overview bar, and there's like a little arrow that you have to push on to drop down so you can go to your section. So just kind of keep that in mind. These are little nuances, but a lot of people run into problems with these things. So just a couple more things. FireWise days can be either education or fuels mitigation or both. You don't have to do both necessarily. It can be one or the other. And then you can access your portal throughout the year to enter the information on what kind of work you guys are doing in your community. It does not all have to be on one day. FireWise day is kind of a quote unquote FireWise day. It's not necessarily a day, it could be a week, it could be all the work throughout the year. You can go in and just enter that information as you go. Keep in mind though, when you're first getting established and on your annual renewals, it should be within about a year. When it's a renewal, it has to be within the year. When it's starting up, I would say if you're getting into 2 years, then that information is going to start to get out of date when you're talking about fuels. So I'm going to save the questions to the end just because I know we're short on time. Why don't I go ahead and turn this on over to Chase then? I think you're next.
All righty. So everybody got that? Okay, so the assessment process. My name is Chase Duncan. I'm the Stewardship Forester for the Prineville Sisters Unit. I work in Deschutes, Jefferson, and Crook County. And when it comes to that point of you guys needing to get to the assessment, it will be me that comes out and walks through the community with you. So I thought I should kind of talk about that process. The day of the assessment, so I come out and meet with members of the community and then other people that are interested. So usually Project Wildfire, Boone comes out, local fire departments, they'll be there as well. And then depending on if you live adjacent to public lands, they might have a representative there as well. Usually I try to start out with where you educate me. It's very common that I've not been in your community before, so I try to have you tell me a little bit about it. How many homes, are you there all year? Not, you know, have you been doing fuels work for years and now you're just trying to get FireWise, or is this all a new start? So just giving me some background. And then I try to educate you a little bit on some fire background, what a wildfire in your community might look like. You know, if you have natural barriers to fire, you know, the big one around here is the Deschutes River, things like that. So just have a discussion, and then we actually start our trip through the community. So we walk or drive, and we look at common themes. I'm not trying to call out one individual's home. You know, Boone, you need to move that firewood pile out of your house. I'm just looking at, you know, fuels need to be reduced, or there's a lot of vegetation close to structures, things like that that you can work on. Usually after that, we meet back and kind of talk about what we saw, the good and the bad, you know. So I put in these two pictures here. So that top one was a community that had done a ladders fuel project, thinned out a bunch of the ground, and it looked really good. So I wanted to make sure that that got written into the assessment. The lower picture there is, you can see 3 houses. There's actually 7 in the picture. So that was something that we talked about, you know, a lot of trees right up against the structure, something to work on. And so that's what the assessment is really looking at what's good, what can be improved on, to give you guys the ability to create an action plan to move forward. So after we do that, then I will write up an assessment. It's usually somewhere between 7 and 10 pages. The majority of it is about the community. So, you know, how many tax lots, how many homes, how many streets, things like that. What a fire might look like. And then the things we talked about at the end of the assessment, those kind of common themes, I write those out. I try to keep them pretty broad so that you can work within them. And then I give specifics. So I might, for instance, say the immediate zone around the structures need work. And then I go in and kind of talk about, like in the picture there on the bottom, you know, pine needles in the gutters, that kind of thing needs to be improved on. After the assessment is written, I give that back to you guys, and then the communities create an action plan. Boone and Jenna both mentioned that. And so what that does is your community's plan to move forward and how you're going to tackle the themes that we saw during the assessment. So it's based for a 3-year plan. So it's kind of your action items over the next 3 years, how you're going to work and try to reduce the hazard to wildfire. And what one might look like. So the community that this belongs to is on the forum today, I saw. So I tried to take all names out, but this is a action plan for a pretty complex community. And I like showing this one because it shows how simple they can be. 1 page, it talks about what they're planning to do, when they're planning to do it, and how they're going to tackle the themes that were in the assessment, how they're going to mitigate fire hazard. So it doesn't, you know, when people hear they have to write an action plan, they think they're looking at a 25-page forest management plan, and that's not the case. It can be fairly simple. So that's all I have. If we want to get questions towards the end, we'll be able to do that. Back to you, Boone.